You're listening to Money Talks. My name is Michael Campbell. Money Talks is brought to you by Solera Club. Solera Club is a royalty-based investment, which means you get paid first. It's also in the tech sector, and there's no fees attached. For more information, go to soleraclub.com. Accusations by the mainstream media and some politicians of fake news and the so-called alternative media are all the rage. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, the concern rings a little hollow, mainly because the mainstream media has no intention of extending the focus to themselves. Am I making a generalization? Well, absolutely, and it's justified. With few exceptions, the media's high self-esteem puts them above reproach in their own minds. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the concern over fake news surfaced once the Democrats lost the U.S. presidential election, along with the Senate, the Congress, the governorships, you name it. According to the Democratic Party establishment, fake news is a principal reason why they lost the election, along with Russians, racists, and deplorables. For the life of them, they can't find a legitimate reason why someone wouldn't vote for them. After all, they're the enlightened ones. But the concern over fake news is so blatantly politically motivated and one-sided that it's actually laughable. I mean, it also backfired as the attention turned to the mainstream media itself. And it wasn't hard to find immediate examples of fake news in the mainstream media. Now, before I give you my take on where accuracy and integrity were guaranteed to fall by the wayside and losing the public trust, let me give you an example from the past week. I mentioned this in a business comment earlier. The CBC ran a story that stated, in quotes, "Since the U.S. election of Donald Trump, universities across the country have reported a surge of applications and website traffic from the United States," end of quote. The implication, presented as fact, is obvious. Trump's election caused a record number of people to apply or inquire about attending a Canadian university. The problem is, they literally made that up. They have no data, they have no research that would support that statement. I mean, the correlation might be true, so is the fact that applications increased after the Flames lost 4-2 to Dallas on November 10th, or Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge was released on November 9th. But as every grade 7 student should know, correlation is not causation. Simply put, that's fake news, motivated by the political bias of the reporter, the headline writer, and news director. The politicization of the CBC's law was nothing new. I mean, given that the union that represents the CBC reporters filed to be a third-party participant in the Canadian election in order to oppose Stephen Harper. I still find that outrageous, but it also explains the bias I am consistently seeing in their coverage. But what I find infuriating is that as a taxpayer, I'm paying for it. But it gets to the root of why trust in the media has been steadily declining. I want to be clear. I don't have a survey or poll that probes specifically why people distrust the media, but it's clear the polls have shown that that distrust level continues to rise. But my take is that it was inevitable. As soon as the media became infatuated with politics, and with it, they surrendered their journalistic integrity in favor of political spin. So much of what masquerades as sort of so-called political news is nothing but innuendo, speculation, misleading statements, and outright BS. One of the norms is to bring on panelists who represent specific parties, and all they offer up is political spin that's designed to mislead you, the public, and way too often it goes without challenge. As Peggy Noonan, the ace columnist with the Wall Street Journal, observed, we actually now expect our politicians and their representatives to lie. But that doesn't excuse the media for not only going along with it, but facilitating it. Another example from the CBC this week. Peter Mansbridge reported on the unverified, unsubstantiated dossier on Donald Trump, calling the sources highly creditable, which was complete BS. As Dean Beckett, he's the executive editor for the New York Times, said, their paper would not publish the document because the allegations were totally unsubstantiated, in quotes. We, like others, investigated the allegations and haven't corroborated them, and we felt we're not in the business of publishing things we can't stand by, end of quote. Well, the CBC will, at least when it comes to a politician they don't like. I think it's a pretty safe bet that if the name on that dossier was Justin Trudeau and not Trump, they wouldn't have run the story. Now, I'm not letting the New York Times, by the way, off the hook, despite their post-election mea culpa, that now they're going to rededicate themselves to honest journalism, in their words, as opposed to what they were doing before. In August, in a column published on the front page, Jim Rutenberg clearly wrote that journalists should forget aspiring for balance and instead adopt an oppositional approach to Trump. But it's not just Donald Trump. Advocacy journalism has taken over newsrooms in the Western world that has infected virtually every social issue, economics, and especially climate change. Back to the CBC. When Neil Young appeared getting interviewed regarding the oil sands, unbeknownst to the viewers, the interview was edited because of Neil Young's clueless statements about oil from the oil sands polluting China and Beijing in particular. The problem was that no oil from the oil sands actually goes to China. He would have appeared an idiot, which would have diminished his anti-oil sands message so popular at the CBC, so the CBC edited the interview to make him appear more knowledgeable. That's clearly an agenda in operation, and it produced a fake interview. The point is, fake news is inevitable with the mainstream media, along with the politicization of every issue, combined with a progressive groupthink that is more in common with political spin and advocacy than integrity. A reminder, Money Talks is brought to you by Solera Club. Solera Club can be found on all the information at soleraclub.com. Hey, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back. Hey, there's some really fascinating changes going on in retail. Plus, I got to get Michael Levy to talk to me about, hey, your bank and how you bank with them, it's going to change. We'll get more on that in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Hey, coming up, I've got Leonard Kirchhoff with me, VP of Kirchhoff Construction. He's got a big, fat idea for you. I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let me grab Michael Levy. I got some questions for him. Michael, let me just start. I got to talk about retail, and I know you have, going back about 300 years, you were in that side. You were visiting it on a regular basis at the famed Woodward's department store in Vancouver. But the point is, of course, you follow that very closely, and I'm just noticing, I was just at a Macy's the other day, and I'm thinking, wow, am I the only guy in here?
Well, isn't that true, Mike? But there's a malaise that's hitting traditional retail as we know it. And I'm going to say as we know it because it's generational, Mike, as we know it, because retail department and specialty stores are being hit with this malaise, and it's not just local or U.S. or Canada, it's worldwide. And let me just give you one example. Shares of the Hudson's Bay hit all-time record lows this past Thursday since going public in 2012 because of weak sales at their U.S. stores, Lord & Taylor and Saks Fifth Avenue, and throughout Europe at their German stores, it's called Kaufhof stores in Europe. The only place that sort of made it last year for the Bay was right here in Canada.
You know, it's funny. I've observed what they've been doing in Canada, and I thought it's been a very strong change. But, Mike, is this because there's more competition, or is it, and especially from the Internet, or what's your take on why? Because, I mean, this is not just, as you mentioned, it's a great example, by the way, because we're all familiar with Hudson's Bay, but I happen to have been in the States for a bit and looking at that, and my goodness, is anybody healthy down there?
Well, Mike, there are. Some of the specialty stores, mostly higher end, are extremely healthy, but the bricks and mortar department stores and shopping centers are the biggest hit. Yes, Mike, people are still spending on retail, but they're spending differently. The Bay joins a chorus of retail department stores like Sears, Macy's, Penny's, Kohl's, and many, many more. But when you take a look at the overall sales over the holiday period, they hit record levels. The only problem is that the record levels for the bricks and mortar stores, the only problem is record levels were online, and that's where the money is being bled out of retail as the new generation and these demographics continue to change and to come into play as the millennials start to get older, have more money, and they just don't do things in the traditional way we do them. So yeah, record holiday sales, but a good portion of them online, not tramping or tromping down to your retail department store.
Yeah, I think the biggest growing store is called your smartphone, the way things are going. But let me take this further, Mike, because I want to go to the banking system, because there's big changes there, and I'm talking right at the personal level. You know, how you bank is going to change in many areas of the country.
Well, Mike, it is, and not only are we seeing this shift because of the digital revolution in retail, as we just talked about, but we're seeing it in banking too. And, if you think your neighborhood bank is always going to be there, look again. Dozens of locations, if not hundreds, will be closed this year as banks cut costs and invest more billions and billions of dollars as clients go to online banking, and this is like across the board, Mike. TD, CIBC, Bank of Commerce, and Scotia have just taken billions of dollars in restructuring charges, and we saw that over the past year and a half, these hundreds of millions of dollars in restructuring charges, as that landscape dramatically changes, and we're going from traditional bricks and mortar, once again, not unlike the department stores, and we're going online.
Yeah, it's really interesting. As I say, that's why it relates to the previous story here on retail. There's a huge percentage. Didn't I hear the Scotiabank CEO talking about, like, I can't remember what it was. Was it like 60, 70, 80% of their basic payments are online now?
And if you were to say that, and you're right on, Mike, it's 80%. If you were to say that, even to me, and I do everything online, but I've got 4 kids in my family, millennials all, who do everything online. Now, I figure that I'm pretty into it, but when you see 80% of their transactions of payments, bill payments, and transferring funds between family members or transferring funds to people that you want to give money to for some reason or another, it's done online. You're not writing a check. You're not delivering the cash. You're doing it online. And this is going to carry on because Scotia, who we're talking about, expects to spend about $2.5 billion on technology alone this year. Well, 60% of that is going to go for maintaining their existing systems. But, Mike, it's the online systems that they're going to maintain. But the other 40%, or $1 billion plus, is going to be spent on new innovations. And believe me, those new innovations are to get people to bank online. It won't be to walk into your neighborhood bank branch.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you know me, Mike, I'm all over the technology and the changes and watching what it means. But this is another great example. Hey, look, you go out and have a terrific weekend.
I will, Mike, and you too.
You know you don't like me telling you what to do, but I'm telling you, have a terrific weekend. I'll take a break. Hey, I'm looking forward to this. We're going to be talking, we've got to be talking the big fat idea. Of course, Leonard Kirchhoff's on the line with me. I'll get to that. What's he got in mind? I'll tell you when we come back from the break. I'm getting excited. The World Outlook Conference, we're just a couple of weeks away, February 3rd and 4th, Friday night, February 3rd. Saturday, February 4th. Looking forward to that. And by the way, coming up at the top of the hour, Aaron Dunn, who will join me at the World Outlook Conference, because one of the big questions is, where do I find yield? I mean, of course, it's one of the big questions. That's not an insight. It's just been a reality for the last several years. And the Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Polo suggests that we're not seeing a rise in rates, at least this year. So that's still going to be a concern for investors everywhere. Anyways, I'll talk more about that. But right now, speaking of big fat ideas, I've got one on the line with me. Leonard Kirchhoff is here, VP Kirchhoff Construction. Leonard, thank you for taking the time on the weekend. And I want to just get right to it. What's your big fat idea?
We have all eyes on the Okanagan as it continues to see incredible growth, which is an opportunity for retirement, affordability, and investment opportunities.
So you're talking about real estate in the Okanagan area. Kelowna maybe first. Is that the heart of the Okanagan for you? Or are we talking Penticton, Vernon, what?
Absolutely. So, why Okanagan as a whole? It's a great destination. I think all of us in BC can at some point remember going up there for a holiday, being with the lake in the summer, the mountains in the winter. It's a dry climate. It's just a great place to be. And it's affordable. So with $500,000 today, you could buy either a 500 square foot apartment in Vancouver or a 2-bedroom, 1,500 square foot home in Kelowna. So our tagline on this is twice the home for half the money. So that's
it's interesting. I was just going to say that we've had this huge shift because of that price rise in the Greater Vancouver area. Where we've seen such a huge. Even with the slowing market right now, we're still talking these huge discounts if you start going elsewhere, like, Vancouver Island and the Okanagan that way. But, one of the things that interests me about Kelowna is that, and people I'm sure from Calgary know this too, having vacation there, but man, talk about an area that's growing. And I'm thinking of things like the hospital with the Cancer Research Center there.
Absolutely, and that's not the only one. There's the Interior Health Building, nearly complete, expected to bring in 900 jobs to downtown core of Kelowna. There's the Innovation Technology Building just coming to completion, another 300 jobs to the downtown area. RCMP headquarters is building a new facility. And the city itself has made incredible improvements to the waterfront area with pathways, the new yacht club, the Cactus Club, outdoor public skating rinks, new parkades, and it's just really has improved the downtown significantly.
Let me ask about, because you guys are active down there, and I'm going to ask you what things you look for in a second, but, one of the things that occurs to me is, and the reason this does, it's pretty straightforward. Leonard, it's my own family. I have a young son who's trying to get into the market in Vancouver, and you look at the prices there, and you compare them, and I think his situation wasn't different from a lot of younger people, especially with these new mortgage changes. The price of that condo, let's say if it's an entry-level, mid-level condo, is really out of reach. And I'm wondering if you're noticing a lot of young kind of urban professional, maybe the tech worker, also kind of gravitating to situations like in the Okanagan and Kelowna, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. As mentioned, it's roughly half the value from a downtown Vancouver project to Kelowna. That's significant.
Yeah.
It's just unaffordable in Vancouver for these tech workers, and there has been a huge increase in downtown Kelowna in that sector.
Let me ask about investors just for a sec here. As an investor, one of the things we love to see is that in-migration, but I don't know. What are the kind of vacancy rates like?
It's nearly 0% in Kelowna. We've been bringing in people for our project under construction there right now, and it's really hard to find properties for rent, which is, of course, what investors love to hear.
And let me go further with the investment thing and pick your brain a little bit with your experience there. Give me some things like what kind of things were you looking for when you guys decide to build, or you think that maybe me as an individual investor should sort of look for what kind of characteristics if I'm thinking about going into those markets?
I'm a bit biased because of our 1151 Sunset Tower project under construction right now, but the things we look for are really three main things. Downtown location being the number one. You're within minutes of the lake, the ice rink, downtown employment, restaurants, entertainment. A lot of the younger people coming out of Vancouver like to be within 5 minutes of a bike ride to work or a walk to work. Mm-hmm. This location offers that. Also like the higher end options, looking at larger than average units, higher level of finishes compared to a lot of other product. Again, being a downtown product, we've gone the next step on that. And
then of course you got the pricing too.
And then the pricing, to throw that in the mix, and we think it's a perfect investment opportunity, whether you're looking to buy to move in, to buy to retire in, selling your home in Vancouver and cashing out, putting some money in the bank, buying a unit there, being a snowbird. Again, Kelowna has a international airport. It's seen its busiest month in December on record.
It's a very interesting thing, and we haven't talked enough about that on this show, so I appreciate you finding time for us, Leonard. Leonard Kirchhoff is VP of Kirchhoff Construction. I got to take a break. I'm going to come back. I've got to talk about searching for yield with Aaron Dunn, but also I got a great shocking stat, and wait for my goofy.